Teen Vogue's cover star is Nicola Coughlan, and there's no topic that her and editor-in-chief Versha Sharma shy away from. Discussing topics like the journey she's been on to get to where she is today, projects she is in and has been a part of, her social justice advocacy work, and also what was it like to film those steamy scenes with co-star Luke Newton. In her 20s, Nicola was going in between Ireland and London, trying to land that role. Here's what Sharma writes. Having to wait for success, though, gave Coughlan a clarity not all entertainers have. She says she's a people pleaser, but she has the stiffest backbone of any celebrity I've met in a long, long time. And it's not all due to her struggle. Part of it is down to her being Irish, part is down to her family, and part, as I've observed, is just who she is. Just a short example is what we've witnessed yesterday, literally less than 24 hours ago. And this is just a small peek into the person who has the stiffest backbone. This waiting period is something that Nicola relates to in terms of like Penelope. She says, Coughlan says, she identifies with Penelope's experience of being on the sidelines, waiting for her moment. I think a lot of Penelope's story is about her stepping out of the shadows and into the light and taking up her space, she explains. I feel like I had to do that as well. It's funny. And as someone who's barely into her 30s, I really, truly admire and look up to Nicola Coughlan because, why am I getting emotional about this? But I think like in the past couple of months or so, like after I turned 31 in January, seeing someone like thrive in their 30s is like reassuring, and also just like, okay, like you're all right, like it's okay. That's why I admire her so much, is because like she's showing us that like just because we've left our 20s does not mean that the best years are not ahead of us. Like we can see that so many wonderful years are ahead of us. Now, when talking about the steamy scene, this is what Luke Newton had to say. Having shot romance scenes with Nicola and with other actors that would perhaps meet on the same day, sidebar, does this mean Colin's gonna have romance scenes with other people in Bridgerton season 3? This has been like a huge question in the fandom. So I'm very curious if this is something we're gonna see, or if this is talking about other projects that he's been on. I'm just very curious because, yeah, just super curious what that will be like. Continuing on, I think a lot of people think it's better not to know the person, Newton tells Sharma during a visit to Teen Vogue's offices in January, but I actually think having a really solid friendship with someone and trusting someone is a lot easier. We could support each other in whatever way we needed on set and also just have a laugh about it. I'm really glad we got to share it together. It was like having a really close friend as you're going through something that's maybe quite daunting. And with that, it has been reported that Newton and Coughlan were so comfortable with each other, they lounged naked between filming scenes. Nicola says, yeah, so it's really funny, Coughlan says with a laugh, that is true. It is a testament to the fact that we just got to a point where we were so comfortable together. We just finished a big scene with the most intense and involved one, and we just felt relieved. Plus, Coughlan continues, there was a logistical element to this lounging. They had on a tiny amount of not even real clothes, she notes, and they would have had to get up and be on display in front of the crew. So I'm assuming just lounging there is probably just better than having to stand up and just like, hi, like... But speaking of crew, as the article continues, they've been there since the beginning with Penn and Colin, and to see the big burly camera guy getting emotional at stuff was sweet, Coughlan recalls. A security guard came up to them at one point, she remembers, and said, I don't normally say this, I've worked with lots of big stars, but this season's really special, and I'm really proud of you, and it's really touched me. It was just pure kindness. And with this new season of Bridgerton, Coughlan says, now the masks are finally off. They just wrote this whole season so beautifully. I also think it's a really relatable story. Everyone's felt like that. Everyone's felt overlooked and not good enough. And I'm just so truly excited for this season. I feel as if there's been so many elements of just romance and just different storylines from different walks of life that I feel aren't always like seen on a scale this large, and so I'm super excited to watch this new season of Bridgerton. One story I really do love is that she was on vacation in Hawaii, and she had brought a pink corduroy dress, and she was like, I don't know when I'm going to use this, and then she got an offer to audition for Barbie, and if this isn't like the most serendipitous thing ever, I don't know what is. I think that this is so awesome that this happened, and yeah, I don't know. Just maybe, if you're questioning yourself, if you need to bring something with you, bring it. You never know when you might need to use it. Now, her journey to the big screen, to also like our own screens here in television, she says, "It was just a washout. I was working in retail and spending all my money on rent, having no time to go to auditions and not really getting auditions. The ones I was getting were really bad. You feel a bit like a fool because it's such a dream. You're like, am I kidding myself? And your family are worried because you've got no money and you're living off ramen noodles." But it all paid off because at the age of 29, she got the audition for Dairy Girls. And y'all, that show is one of the best shows ever. And anywho, before I get crying over Dairy Girls. But 5 days before she found out she got the part, her dad passed away suddenly. In the space of 1 week, Coughlan says she had some of the worst and best times of her life. And I can't even imagine what that would have been like. But the fact that she has gone through what she went through in her 20s to that moment in time to where she is now is just a testament of the character and kind of person she is. And speaking about her character, she talks about the social justice issues that she advocates for on her social media page and just in general. She says, "The fact that I get to go do the job I love and travel the world and meet amazing people, I feel a moral responsibility to give back. Even before I was on television, I was involved in different causes. I went campaigning door to door for marriage equality in Ireland. I went on marches for abortion rights. I've always cared about causes and social justice." She talks about how her father served in the Irish Army. She says, "He would go into a lot of war-torn regions after the conflict and try to help rebuild. He used to work with the UN on a lot of peacekeeping missions. She goes, "My family lived in Jerusalem back in the late 70s and early 80s before she was born, so she heard firsthand stories about them living there." And she says that her dad spent much of his life doing that, and he was in Syria, he was in Honduras, he was everywhere. On the ongoing conflicts that's been happening now, she says, "To me, it's always becomes about supporting all innocent people," which sounds oversimplified, but I think you've got to look at situations and just think, are we supporting innocent people no matter where they're from, who they are? That's my drive. She also acknowledges too the precarious state of Hollywood when it comes to what's happening in Gaza. You do get told you won't get work, you won't do this. But I also think deep down, if you know if you know that you're coming from a place of I don't want any innocent people to suffer, then I'm not worried about people's reactions. And she's also heard that certain agents and agencies and studios potentially won't want to work with her because of her advocacy, which is insane to me because they would be missing out on someone who is truly incredible and truly has some of the best talent in the industry. The article continues to say she thinks social media has boxed people into certain corners, making things seem only black and white. When we live in a world where multiple things are true at once, more of us should be trying to understand how upsetting and traumatizing this is for Jewish people and how horrific it is for all those innocent people in Palestine are being murdered," she says. If people in Hollywood still don't want to work with her, I still think that's insane. Speaking of those who are from Ireland and also in the industry, Nicola Coughlan is among the best. Shining stars like Cillian Murphy, Paul Mescal, Andrew Scott, Barry Keoghan, and Io Adebri. Let me just say this, the way I need Io Adebri and Nicola Coughlan to be in something, I don't care what it is, those two with their comedy chops would be chef's kiss, if you know what I'm saying. But seriously, they would be so good together. I would just, like, if they got into a show and a film together, imagine, sorry, I'm gonna go on a little tangent, but imagine Io Adebri and Nicola Coughlan on like a summer blockbuster, like Girls Trip or something like that. So good. There's no doubt that Nicola Coughlan is a force of nature. I've seen her be Claire Devlin, Penelope Featherington, and Maggie. All three characters unique in their own right, and she has played them beautifully. And I do hope we will see her host Saturday Night Live sometime. Honestly, it should be this year, but I'm not sure what the full lineup is, but she should be a host for Saturday Night Live. At the end of it all, Nicola Coughlan says, "It's exhausting, but it's also it's so rewarding. It's still worth it. All the tiredness, everything, it's all so worth it." Truly, she is the moment. She is the vibe. I'm so excited for her, and I hope she is having the best of times right now, and it continues on.